Hey everybody, welcome to another Rackspace Managed Cloud Office Hours Hangout. My name is Alan Bush and we are broadcasting live from the Rackspace Castle here in San Antonio, Texas. Today we got a really fun show. We're going to talk about the O'Reilly OSCON convention. We sent a bunch of Rackers there last week and they learned a lot, they taught a lot, and we've got some Rackers here to join us to talk about that. We'll introduce them here in just a second. We're also going to preview, I guess a debut, I guess we can say now, that it's officially launched our Developer Plus program that one of our guests has worked really hard to get put together. It's a really cool program. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Joining us, as usual, is Drew Cox, one of the other Rackers here. He comes to us every week. Drew, great to see you again.
You too, Alan.
Yeah, thank you. It's we're just doing the math on this. This is episode number 67 of the show. So we put together quite a few of these, and we're moving along. It's hard to believe we had 67 already. Cool. Let's introduce some of our other guests as well. So joining us, we have, I alluded to the Developer Plus program just a second ago, but we have Jesse Noller joining us, and he is joining us from his secret lair, and he's going to talk to us about OSCON and Developer Plus here in just a minute. Thanks for joining us, Jesse. Let's see. So we also have joining us another one of our developer advocates, Everett Toews, who's joining us from his own secret lair, I guess, and good to have him on. We'll talk to him a little bit more in just a minute here. And then Dale Bracey joining us as well from his new home, which does not yet have internet installed, so he's on that oh-so-shaky cellular connection. But anyway, great to have everybody joining us. Really appreciate it. If you're watching and you want to leave us a comment, please do so. You can use the commenting system right here on Google Plus or on YouTube. We'll pick up those and respond to those comments and questions. You can also hit us up on Twitter, and we'll be more than happy to respond to those questions and comments. So please keep those coming for us. So let's go ahead and jump in and kind of start talking a little bit. If we could, let's just talk a little bit about who you are at Rackspace, what you do at Rackspace, and we can start there. Let's start, Jesse, with you. If you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do here at Rackspace.
Oh man, now I'm put on the spot. So as he said, I'm Jesse Noller. I'm a principal engineer and actually the lead for the developer relations group at Rackspace. So that comprises our SDK and client tools program, our community and open source outreach group, as well as our developer documentation group now. And I'm the person to blame for Developer Plus. I think I said this in my blog post, if it sucks, blame me. If it works, thank the team. So I come from a Python background. I ran PyCon, the biggest Python community event, for several years. I was on the PSF board of directors for several years, and otherwise doing a lot of community building stuff. At Rackspace, it's all developer experience all the time for me. So I'm constantly chasing down how we can improve things for developers and improve our products, our docs, just everything. So that's my deal.
Great, yeah, and you've been doing a great job, and we really appreciate that. Everett, let's jump over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been a Racker, and what you do here at Rackspace?
So yesterday was actually my 2-year Racker-versary, as it were.
Awesome! Congratulations! Congratulations!
Yeah, so that felt pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm a developer advocate here at Rackspace in our developer relations group, working with Jesse and all the other developer relations Rackers. And so I do a lot of development, primarily on our Java SDK for Rackspace and OpenStack, and actually many other clouds. It's a multi-cloud toolkit known as Apache JClouds. And then I've done a fair bit of operations in my time as well, and kind of taken those two things and advocating for both developers and operators who are using either Rackspace or OpenStack or pretty much any cloud technology, specifically with respect to open source. And I like to advocate for our users as well. I mean, if they're having trouble, if they're having problems, we want to hear about it. We want their feedback, and we just want to make all of our stuff better, right from the client tools right into the services we provide.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And then let's jump over to Dale. Dale, you've been a Racker for a significant amount of time. I think you've got tenure on all of us. You got that nice 10-year flag hanging up. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Rackspace now.
I have 10-year tenure. My title does not really describe what I do. It's OpenStack engineer, but I'm actually more of a evangelist liaison for private cloud. Started out in inventory and moved on up in the world, and I basically help other Rackers get what they need to get things done, or find the right people to get things done, and hang out with these fools from time to time.
Absolutely good. Yeah, like all good jobs, your title doesn't really describe what you do. So I think that's the pinnacle of a good job. Well, the reason
maybe I'll make up one.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. The reason that we invited everybody out here today is that we wanted to talk about the conference that you guys all attended last week. So let's talk a little bit about that and see. So this was up in Portland, the O'Reilly Open Source Convention, and let's talk a little bit about what the convention is and why we as Rackers go and attend that. So,
open source all the things. Jesse, you want it?
Oh God! Like no. So I was trying to find the unmute button because Google Hangouts made it all disappear in their pretty UI. Yeah, OSCON, open source. It's one of the definitive open source conferences. Of course, I tend to prefer more, I guess, tight-knit community conferences. But if you're talking open source industry and trying to see a really good broad swath of open source technology, vendors, projects, things like that, it's OSCON really can't be beat. And so because we literally we do almost everything as open source, and within the community, within the upstream communities, from product development to our SDKs and tools. I mean, OSCON is one of those, you can't miss. Right, it's a great place to talk to developers. It's a great place to learn about new open source technologies like Docker, and everything else that's coming down the pike. So, I mean, it's not just strategically important from kind of, I guess you could say, a marketing standpoint, but it's a good way for us to continue to invest in our roots, so to speak, as a company.
Yeah, great. And I think that we go there as proponents of open source, and we have our own open source products that we use. We open source lots and lots of things, and then we also OpenStack is one of the biggest projects that we contribute to, and so I'm sure that we were there as part of that as well. So Everett, it looks like you were about to comment a little bit there. What can you tell us a little bit about your experience? I mean, you've been going to these for quite a while.
Yeah, so one of the things I really kind of appreciate about OSCON is, like, prior to the regular sessions starting and the expo hall floor and all that stuff getting started, is the workshops that they have on the first day or two of the conference. And these are, typically technical deep dives into particular technologies like Docker, which was one that I attended. So that's one of the things I really enjoy about OSCON, is how they kind of front load the conference with, technical deep dives, and it just kind of gives you a good context for the rest of the conference. That, and honestly, spending time on the expo hall floor, talking to developers, getting their hands on our code challenge and stuff, it's just fun. It's just a good time meeting the developers out there and seeing what it is they're looking for from infrastructure as a service, and from Rackspace and OpenStack in particular.
Great. You mentioned the challenge. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So yeah, this was a challenge that we presented to people who wanted to win swag. We actually had some nice, I guess you call them Scotty vests, just kind of a nice
Oh yeah.
long sleeve shirt thing. And we wanted to challenge people a little bit before we popped one in their hands. So what they do is they use Rackspace cloud files via either the GUI, our web interface, the cloud control panel, or via one of our SDKs written in Java, Python, or Ruby. So they would sit down, if they were a developer, they'd sit down at one of our machines, and we'd give them the instructions, and it's kind of fill in the blanks. wasn't too terribly challenging, but the point was just get people, introduce them to our technologies, and put a smile on their face. And I think it worked out really well. We got a lot of good feedback, and we put a lot of the vests in people's hands, and everyone seemed really happy with it. So that felt pretty good.
Well, great. And it seems like you put the SDKs in a lot of people's hands as well. And I think that's part of the trade-off. That's good. Good. Great. Dale, can you tell us a little bit about your experience at OSCON this year and what you're able to participate in?
Yeah, I went for a couple of different reasons, a little bit on the other side of what they went for. So mostly so I work for private cloud support. So a little shameless plug, I went there to try and hire for more OpenStack engineers. So we need that. What I ran into was everyone there is a developer. I'm a developer. I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing? What's your job? Well, I don't have a job right now. Well, come work for us, and then you can go be a developer once you have your foot in the door. There was conversations like that all the time. Also went to help Cody Bunch and Egglet with their OpenStack hands-on. So a few of us, I think actually Everett was helping with that too, right? A few of us sat in there as TAs for when people got stuck or they needed a little bit more help to catch up. Helped with Everett's code challenge, watching people over their shoulder. Again, if they get stuck, showing them how to do it. And pretty much just standing there and being as we just recently coined, the original booth beard.
Yes, absolutely.
So just hanging out in the booth and answering questions about Rackspace in general, about private cloud, about whatever anybody needs help with.
Great.
It was definitely a very fun experience to meet a lot of different interesting people.
Well, I think that just going there and helping out where people need it. I mean, I think that's a very Racker thing to do, to go in and just help out and make sure that you can help out wherever it's needed. So thanks. We really appreciate that. One of the things that I was hoping to get from you guys is let's talk a little bit about what you learned. Is there anything that you learned this time around that you think that is super interesting this week or this time, or is it going to be something that you're going to use going forward?
Docker, cloud, Kubernetes, CoreOS. Well, I already knew CoreOS, but I think Jesse's favorite was Kubernetes ship it.
Yeah. So we already all know as technologists that containers are the new virtual machines, and so it's actually what'd you say?
Did you just call them virtual machines?
Yeah, containers are the new virtual machines, man.
All right.
Also, I'm the paid Rackspace troll. So container and container technology is, it's always been around. I mean, I remember playing with root jails and everything else like that. There you go. I remember playing with root jails and everything else like that several years ago. But ever since Docker hit the scene, it's all about making the technology usable and accessible to people who are not level 10 Linux wizards. Although we employ a lot of them, I am not one of them. And so it was nice to see at OSCON, technologies like CoreOS and being able to give a talk with the CTO there about, the potential of this global application fabric driven by containers and CoreOS with automatic fault tolerance and, just etcd and all that great technology, and then looping it back to something like Kubernetes, which at the time it was 1 month old. It was a 1 month old open source project from Google, and it already had 1,000 plus commits to it, and it is a fully functioning prototype for
Almost
large.
1,300.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's accelerating fast, and to be able to see that type of prototype with that type of acceleration, I can really see where the application builder future is going to go, where I, as providers like Rackspace and OpenStack, really provide the skeleton for CoreOS and Kubernetes orchestration and things like that. So I was really excited because I like dealing with technologies that when you touch them you bleed. So that was the high point for me. I mean, I've spent nothing but time thinking about that ever since.
So did Kubernetes already have a pretty good critical mass behind it, or was it the actual participation in OSCON that kind of pushed it forward? A little bit of both?
I think it's a combination of both. So when Google actually announced it at DockerCon, everyone just kind of sat back and said, okay. And I think Kelsey Hightower at the meetup that was after OSCON actually pointed it out. He's like, Google published the Chubby paper several, XY time ago, and we all know that they publish white papers after they've already been running the stuff in production for like 2 years, right? So Kubernetes is what they stood up there, and you can go and see the DockerCon video. When they announced it, they actually said that this is not running in production in Google, but we want to get it to a production state at Google, and this is the future of large-scale container orchestration and management. And so it's exciting to see, and I think part of it is containers. Containers are so lightweight that when you're talking about them, you're actually talking about orchestrating hundreds of thousands of them versus virtual machines, which are an order of magnitude less in most cases. And so you obviously need something good that sets up the networking for you, that sets up all of the port binding and all this other crazy stuff, that when you start thinking about deploying not 10 Redis instances, but rather 150 Redis instances, I think that really sparked like everyone to just say, screw it, we'll just go do that. But then there's other technologies like libswarm and Fleet and everything else like that, where we're going to see a lot of really awesome changes that are going to make application developer lives a hell of a lot easier than what we've seen. So.
Yeah, didn't this also help with managing containers across multiple instead of just having to be able to do it like they were aware of each other across multiple? Oh, and
Yeah.
sorry, I'm dyslexic. It was 1,030 because it's at 1,100 commits now.
Yeah. So CoreOS is actually an operating system kernel that just runs containers, and it actually has tools within it. One of it, which is called etcd. And etcd allows you to actually connect the CoreOS hosts. Think of these as heavyweight virtual machines or bare metal boxes running CoreOS. You can connect them and actually say, hey, listen, I've got XY containers over in this box, over in this geolocation. I've got this one on this cloud host. I've got this one in my basement. And you would typically use something called Fleet to manage those, and that's sort of geo-aware. Kubernetes takes it to the next step, the next level, where you can, not just say I need 3 or 4 replicas of this, but you're actually saying, okay, take this Redis instance across n different locations in the world, bind them all to this load balancer, and expose one port, right? So it's actually pretty crazy what you can do with it. So I'm a fanboy, and I'm all excited now. So
we didn't learn anything at this conference.
What was that, Everett?
I was just going to say a couple of points. First on CoreOS, like you were saying there, Jesse, and it was actually a light bulb went on for me at OSCON, and it just so happened to be during the presentation that you and Brandon gave. Brandon's the CTO of CoreOS. Yeah, so it was I love the way they explained CoreOS in a couple of slides. He had your typical Linux distribution is the kernel, systemd, SSH and some container manager, maybe like Docker or whatever, and then it's got all the other stuff in there, like Python and Java, Nginx, MySQL, OpenSSL, whatever packages you've got installed on that distro, and that's your typical Linux distro. And then on top of that, you put your application on it. But what CoreOS is doing is they're moving the wall of distro over so that it's pretty much having as little in there as possible, really just the kernel, systemd, SSH, and Docker, something to manage containers. And then you're using those containers to put everything else, including your application, onto that box. So that really helped sum up CoreOS for me. And then the other thing was I had kind of a theory on Kubernetes that I'd like to bounce off you. So I think one of the reasons that, or my theory is that one of the reasons that Google open sourced Kubernetes was, they have a container scheduler thing running within Google already. They have that already. So why open source Kubernetes? I think it's kind of their way to kind of experiment with alternative designs that evolve out of an open source community. So they get to kind of do this experimentation, not entirely for free. They're still kind of guiding the project and whatnot, but they get to see what all of these other ideas come out of this community that's forming around Kubernetes. Do you have any thoughts on that? Does that seem like a reasonable theory?
Go ahead, but I would say that since Google has been obviously using containers for literally everything. Again, go to DockerCon, go to the DockerCon videos, and you'll see just like they just. I'm going to use that total business term that makes me feel awful, which is they totally open the kimono and they're like, we literally use containers for everything within Google, and they have a little library called "Let Me Contain That For You." Cute name, really awesome. Hard to Google sometimes. So they've said, boom, we've been doing all of this. This is how we run everything. Glad to see the rest of the world catch up to us. But at the same time, I think you're perfectly right, which is they've been kind of iterating on this stuff internally, but now with Docker, with basically the rest of the world getting on the container bandwagon, for lack of a better term, I think we're going to start seeing more and more, scheduling options. We're going to see more, disaster recovery scenarios covered. I think we are going to see a rapid evolution of the technology, just like we've seen with like cloud technologies and everything else like that, and DevOps.
Yeah, definitely faster deployments too.
Okay, you slid DevOps right in at the end there. Nice.
Yeah, we definitely need to get all
up for the business buzzword.
Yes.
Yeah, you kind of swap them out there.
Yeah, don't worry. We have a somewhat of a business audience there, so they'll feel at home. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Jesse, to help them feel at home.
We also have a running tally of the number of times we say DevOps. So we're at about 1.5 billion right now.
Yeah. Good. Got to keep that number moving northward. Great. Cool. So I think we're grabbing. Dale's been shooting us some links for the for some of the slides and the talks that were given at OSCON, and we're going to put up links to those. It looks like actually Dale just had to hop off there, so hope we'll get back here in a minute. Hey, there he is back. All right, cool.
Whoa, what happened? I heard we're grabbing Dale's something, and I lost it.
I'm glad you cut out right when you did. Cool. So just thank you for sharing those links with us. So thanks, Dale. Glad to have you back. Great. So let's talk a little bit about some of the. You said that Dale, you mentioned that most everybody that you talked to was looking to be in the development capacity of some sort. I was listening to another podcast earlier that was talking about how hardware or software is the new hardware is essentially what it was, and that your career path will largely be defined by software, by connecting to RESTful APIs, and that's really the development path that most people should take now. So let's talk a little bit about that and how we have open sourced all of our SDKs. We have just tell us a little bit about what we've done as Rackspace and how we're getting our tools out there for people to use. Jesse, Everett, either of you guys?
Oh yeah, Jesse pretty much covered it earlier. A lot of our stuff is just out there, free for everybody. Even in my department, our entire cloud build is out there for free. You don't even have to be a customer, right? You could deploy OpenStack 100% for free with our tooling. I think that's really the big message that we're trying to deliver, is that the tooling, the software, all that's free. It's the support and the help that you pay for, right? Even a lot of times our support's free. We have community.rackspace. A lot of times those answers are free. We have the Jesse's group that does a lot of social media. I don't know if you want to call it mitigation, but answering people. Is that a good way of putting it?
So it's actually the DRG is doing developer to developer support, not just across social media, but also Stack Overflow, IRC, forums, email, forums, etc. So we're basically programmers who answer questions for other programmers because we like programmers. And before I go Balmer, I'm going to mute myself.
That's part of the bingo game that we have going on. Is who says developers first? Oh,
programmers. Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of developer support, one of the things we like to do is share as much knowledge as possible within our community. So if we have a customer working with one of our technologies, I'll speak for JClouds in this instance. They'll contact us and say, "Oh, we're having this issue with JClouds," and we'll happily help them. Just on our support mailing list, sek-support@rackspace.com mailing list. More than happy to help them directly that way. But then we like to encourage them to join our open source communities that we actually have underway. So say, here's the answer. Next time, why don't you join the JClouds mailing list or Stack Overflow or whatever? Let's get this knowledge out there, because the one-on-one kind of support, it's great, and it's necessary, but it would be so much better if we could share the knowledge with everybody in the community. And so that's something we focus on a lot, is trying to build the communities out and just share the knowledge.
No, I think that's a great point, and I think that's kind of one thing that I think that we've been able to do fairly well recently is try to move from a one-to-one to a one-to-many support interaction, and that was kind of the impetus behind this show. Actually, was to take some of the interactions that we have on a daily basis with customers and try to put that out to a one-to-many format. And these spaces that you mentioned, Stack Overflow, our community forums, any place like that where you can take one interaction. If one person asks a question publicly, you have to assume that several people have asked that question privately and haven't had a chance to get that out. So it's great. I love that we're able to do that and to get those out. And that's just another way that we're able to help out our customers and even people that aren't our customers, frankly, to help them out and to use some of these tools. So great work that you guys are doing there. I really like that spirit. We did have a question real quick that I just wanted to touch on just really briefly here. Looks like Skip had a question about Docker, and so he's not quite sure what Docker is, and seems like a buzz term, and I think that is definitely a hot item. But so can we talk a little bit about what Docker is? And Skip is one of our customers. He has a hybrid environment. He has some dedicated servers, and he's also got some cloud servers. So real quick, what would we say is like the overview of Docker?
Could we say it's easy mode orchestration for containers?
So let's go back a little bit further than that. So containers, I think that Everett, you were mentioning it a little bit ago. It's Docker takes CoreOS takes the bare minimum of a Linux operating system to get something up, and then Docker says, all right, I know that you have this much of the operating system that I need to do my application. I'm going to bring the rest of the baseline that I need, and then plus the application itself. And so that's wrapped up into a container, which is where they kind of got that name from, and it's shipped out that way, so that you can have a seamless transition between developer environment and your staging, production, whatever.
Yeah, and one of the key aspects of it is being able to take that environment, that container, and ship it around. I mean, that's the whole point behind the container analogy, is that you can have it on your laptop, you can put it in staging, you can put it in tests, you can put it in production, and it's the same thing in each place. And it's small and it's cheap in terms of processing power and time to spin up and what you need to download to get it working. So that's kind of one of the key aspects of it, is that it's easy to ship around. And the way they do the layering within the container, like this is a Docker specific thing, the way they build up the layers within the container, it's really quite ingenious. So you're very incrementally building these containers and then shipping them around. And Jesse just shared a link to the docker.com. What is Docker? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great presentation that kind of goes through that and let you know it's definitely going to be instrumental in the next generation of web scale applications, I think. So it's something that I know that I've been trying to wrap my head around for a while and see what we can do to build with that. I know internally we're building a lot of tools on that. So Jesse, looks like you have a comment.
Yeah, so I was going to say it's one of the interesting things that came out in the talk with Brandon, the CTO of CoreOS, and I, and our talk. It's that one of the things, and Everett's mentioned this, and so we're possibly retreading a little bit, but putting your application and all of its dependencies, or specifically putting your application in a container or in a box, and then Redis in a box, and then MySQL in a box, not just makes it portable, it also makes it a heck of a lot more composable. One of the key things to remember there is that if you isolate these individual chunks of your application and you make them highly portable, you end up not having to worry about operating systems. So when you're deploying your application, you typically have to deal with, let's pick a Python one. If I were to build a Python web application, I'd have to maybe use, if I was over-architecting it, I would have an AMP queue or a queuing system. I would have an application server. I'd probably have Nginx in there to handle the HTTP traffic. Let's throw a couple of other data stores like MySQL and Postgres in there. I've got all these dependencies inside of my application. And true service-oriented architecture and actual composable architectures, you start splitting that out. And so now all of a sudden, instead of having one app, one machine where you've got everything kind of glommed together and you just kind of like ship and pray, you can still do that with containers. You can build everything all up into one and just ship and pray, but the cloud has kind of taught us to put each one of these services onto its own machine. Containers take that a step further, which is, okay, so even if you're doing that, you have to worry about your operating system version, making sure that you have the correct version of OpenSSL compiled for the version of Python that you're using for your application server or something else like that, right? It's a mess. And so what ends up happening when you combine CoreOS, Docker, and all of these other technologies to build these containerized applications is you could run a version of Redis on the same, within a container host. And that version of Redis could have custom versions of all of its dependencies that it needs, because maybe you're running from Git head, and I don't recommend that. But you're running a custom version of Redis, so it's contained over there, and you don't actually have to worry about its dependency tree tainting all of your rest of your application stack. And the same goes for your application server. If you need a custom version of OpenSSL or Nginx or something else like that, you can just put that in a container. And so what we move to is, instead of having to have complex DevOps scenarios where you're like, okay, my configuration management tool is just going to make sure that all of these machines hopefully look exactly the same all the time and just run constantly. Okay, just wipe that guy out if he doesn't match. You end up shipping binaries to the cloud. And that binary, that container, contains your application server and all of its dependencies, and then you just interconnect the containers So you get this nice fabric of things that you can move to any geolocation or any other host. So it actually gives you a lot more portability than you had previously without having to worry about this dependency tree mess. So, okay, I'm going to stop because I'm talking.
No worries, no worries. I was gonna say, I think that I think ship and pray might be my new favorite phrase there. I really like that a lot, and it works out really well. Cool. Thanks. That's a nice kind of introduction to Docker and kind of how that's going to be important for the next this kind of next phase of things. So, all right, cool. Let's go ahead and kind of transition here real quick to the second half of the show that we're going to talk about here, and we're going to talk about the Developer Plus program that you, Jesse, and the rest of the developer relations group put together. So we just launched yesterday, and we've already had a very good positive reaction to that, I think, and we've seen a lot of people there signing up to try Rackspace. I think that was really the point of the Developer Plus program, was to help to get people to try Rackspace. And so let's talk about that a little bit here, Jesse. If you have a okay, there you go. You're settled down again. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Developer Plus.
Sorry, I had to let the dog out. So Developer Plus at its core, it's not just to try out Rackspace, but it's also one of the things that I find going to conferences and other locations is, we show up and we're talking to developers and we're all app devs ourselves and we're writing code and, we're like, we've got this great OpenStack cloud, we've got the new on-metal product, which is basically bare metal servers that you can boot in like 2 minutes or less behind an API, and people are like, Rackspace has a cloud? So that's problem number one. The secondary problem is they don't understand necessarily the features that our cloud actually has, like orchestration, auto-scale, DNS, load balancers. Just like we actually, when you're looking at the core set of features that you need to build a nicely scalable application on the cloud, we're actually, we're pretty darn good, and we can actually do mixed architecture. So we can do a mix of private cloud if you want that, or we can do a mixture of dedicated machines and public cloud, or any number of things, right? We've got different permutations that we can actually support given our history. So Developer Plus isn't just a come and try out Rackspace, it's also a come and experience us, right? Come and actually see, we are cost competitive, right? We have disambiguated and I've actually got a Hacker News thread where I said something very similar to this. It's like, we recently, if you go and look at the raw infrastructure prices for our compute, the prices are dropped. And the reason why is we finally disambiguated, or separated rather, the cost of support, that fanatical support that everyone gets being a Rackspace customer. We separated that out, and we show you what your raw infrastructure price is, and simultaneously we drop the price, right? So on a raw infrastructure level, we are price competitive, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. I think Developer Plus is really an on-ramp. It's sort of an incubator where developers can come and they can talk to developers directly. So they can actually, if they send an email to sdk-support@rackspace.com, it lands in mine and Everett's email box, right? It's, it's, if you post to Stack Overflow or if you post in our community forums, you're going to be talking to other developers who can help you build cloud applications and build them the right way, which is, horizontal scale out, use orchestration, use cloud DNS, and everything else like that. And I think the final bit with Developer Plus is, as sort of a developer advocate and developer experience, I really wanted to build a program that I would like as a developer. In other words, I wanted to build something that I didn't want to have to pay for support, because I understand that, having support minimums and support fees associated with something means that I have to trust you. And as a developer, I want to be able to build up that trust over a period of time. Also, as a developer, especially if I'm building a startup, like maybe selling toothpaste to cats over the internet, I kind of want to start small in sort of an incubation program where I can get experience with a real cloud application, and then when I hit that hockey stick, or I exceed my level of knowledge, I can pick up the phone and say, okay, now I'm ready, let's go full boat, I trust your infrastructure, your people have treated me well, let's go and do this. And we'll help you through the next step. We can do your DevOps for you, we can do all sorts of things for you once you hit that level of comfort and trust with us. So, I mean, I wrote a lot of this in the blog post, but functionally what it is it's a 1-year incubator where you get an infrastructure credit every month that further discounts our prices, but it doesn't dictate which parts of the infrastructure you use. So you can spin up a performance 1 gigabyte of RAM server, a cloud load balancer, some cloud files, and cloud backup, and that's covered under the infrastructure credit, right? That's pretty competitive, and then you get all the freebies that all of our other customers get, including orchestration, autoscale, DNS, networks. I don't think I'm forgetting any, but I probably am. Oh, yeah, cloud monitoring is free now too. And so you get a really good feature set already for free that is designed for cloud usage, and then we're going to give you enough runway and enough time to actually execute on your idea. And we're going to give you access to the people who are best suited to talk to you in the way that you feel most comfortable. So that's really what it boils down to. But I'm happy to answer any questions if that wasn't clear.
No, I think it's clear, and I think that being clear is really what the name of our recent marketing changes have been. And I think that we haven't been very clear on that. I think that we haven't done a good position. I mean, it really hurts, frankly, whenever you mentioned that scenario where you say, hey, I work at Rackspace in the cloud, and people say, oh, Rackspace has a cloud. I mean, that's not the ideal situation. And I think we've been doing a lot to make that situation better, and I think that this is going to go a long way to do that. And just being able to talk to a developer about a developer problem and work with developers directly. I mean, that's huge, and that's what you and Everett do every day. And Everett, maybe you can talk a little bit about what you think this is gonna mean for the developers that you work with on a daily basis and how they can take advantage of this.
Yeah, well, I was going to say one of the things I really like about the new Developer Plus program is that it's not just, okay, here's your slice of the Rackspace cloud, and you can do whatever you want with it. You can use absolutely everything, and just go forth and build. It's a two-way street. We really want that feedback from those developers building things. What's working? What isn't working? We want to be able to take that feedback and advocate for those developers within Rackspace and within the OpenStack community. That's just so critically important for us. And we want to start getting a lot more proactive about engaging our developer customers too, because was it you just maybe that was earlier saying that in a previous conversation that we have the policeman problem. Sometimes we'll only hear from developers when something's going wrong. Policemen only hear from people when there's a problem. Well, we don't want to just hear from people when there's a problem. We want to engage our developers before then and find out what we can do better and get on top of it before it becomes a problem, because the best developer support is when you don't need developer support at all, when it's just there and it just works.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said this recently, which is if I'm a developer and since I recently became a manager, I don't know if I can say that anymore. But anyways, if I'm a developer, there are really 2 points where I'm going to pick up the phone and call you. The first one is all of your stuff is broken and you need to fix it. Or the second one is I'm completely out of my league and I need your help, right? The second is where Rackspace wants to be and shines. Like if you call us and you're like, you know what, I need two DevOps and a e-commerce application, we can help you do that. The first one is where you don't want to be, and so developers are very, very good at giving you that critical feedback, but we should be able to catch that much earlier in the pipeline, and I think the developer program is a good way for us to actually hear, about product limitations or other things that we may be missing, lacking, or potentially need, and getting that feedback directly into the organizations within Rackspace so we can, make something, we're already damn proud of what we have, but, we can make it 1,000 times better. We always can. That's true with anything. But one other point, and I'm going to paste the link into the thing. So we've talked a lot about managed cloud and everything else like that. I think one of the big, not just marketing, but clarity things for Rackspace is whenever Everett and I would go to a developer event, people would be like, "Well, you're too expensive." Like, I look at some other provider and they cost like 2 cents per year, and oh God. And I think that's a completely fair scenario. But then I'd go to the whiteboard and I'd say, okay, so you're paying us, X amount per gigabyte hour or X amount per hour, and then I'd say 80 cents of that or 80% of that is actually because you get a massive amount of support that we don't talk about. So our unmanaged cloud that we had before the 15th was never unmanaged, right? And you could at any point you could actually just pay $20 a month or something, or $30 a month for a server on us, and you could call us on Christmas, on Thanksgiving, or anything else like that, and you could get a live person on the telephone. And we did a really bad job about actually talking about functionality and capabilities of our support organization, and that's a huge disservice to not just customers, because of course it's unclear, but I think it's a disservice to what we do and what we've been doing. So as part of this exercise that we went through with rolling out Developer Plus, which is very specifically targeted for developers, we also rolled out basically a checklist of what you get with our support levels at each one of our offering levels. So managed infrastructure, which was used to be the unmanaged cloud, you can see you get architecture advisors, you get code development assistants, which is the same thing that Everett and I have already been doing, but across the entire support org. So we'll help you debug where your application hits our API. You get security guidance, scaling support, migration support. You get pretty awesome service level agreement too. But I mean, these are things that you got by default with us that we never talked about, and that's sort of the thing. It's like, Developer Plus is all about talking about the capabilities of this fully operational Battlesite cloud, and Managed Cloud is all about talking about, as a company that prides itself on support, this is actually what we do, and we're number one, we're proud of it, and we're going to tell you exactly what it is. So,
yeah. Well, it really seems to be a paradigm shift in a couple of ways. I mean, we've kind of started this. We've always been very good at the reactive support portion of it. If something's broken, we'll help you fix it. Dale, you're a longtime Racker, so I mean, you've seen that for a while, where if something's broken, we'll fix it. But Everett or Jesse, I forgot which one of you said it. The policeman problem. We don't want to, or I call it the grandma problem. It's like the hey, how come you never call me? Well, you can you can call us too. So it's kind of changing the way that we do this, going from a reactive to more of a proactive way, I think is going to be very beneficial.
Yeah, Jesse and I have had conversations about that in the past, and nothing really came of the idea, but I really wanted to see a better relationship with his group and my group, where we're onboarding customers a little more cleanly. Like, don't wait till the fire happens. Don't wait till we don't know what that problem possibly could have been, let's dive in there right away when they're becoming a customer and find out, okay, what app are you actually running? What are you doing? What's your service? What's going to happen? And then these guys can advise along that. We haven't really
rework is the
route,
worst.
Right.
I would much rather get those educational opportunities and have a chance to say, look, we've seen this fail going that route. Let's turn a little bit, and focus a little bit further over here so that we can fix this problem out front. It's going to be a better experience for everyone, and the on-ramp is better for the project that's being hosted. I mean, just all around, everyone gets a better experience.
Yeah, well, Drew and I are, Drew's taken another position with the company, but Drew and I were both on the launch team, and that's one of the other pillars of our fanatical support that we're offering with Managed Cloud is launch assistance, and the whole idea behind that is, number one, let's diffuse these bombs before they happen, and number two, if you're set up in a highly supportable manner, is going to be less support down the road. So really, that's what we're trying to do is to help with that, and I think that is a great way to do that. I want to bring in a comment here that Skip made as well. So he said he's been down both of those paths, and I think he's referring to the managed and our managed infrastructure and managed operations tiers. And Rackers have been there to help me with no questions asked and didn't rest until I was happy. So great feedback there, Skip. I really appreciate that. And
I think his follow-up to that was pretty good too. Telephone support is second to none. You're never going to call us up and be put on hold or be told, or be told, oh, your wait in line is you're going to get somebody to talk to. And if you can't get us there, you can get us on Twitter. If you can't get us there, you can get us on our forums, on our chat.
Yeah, absolutely. We're there, and we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we're always going to pick it up and answer that for you. Looks like we've got a couple of other questions here. Tyler, can you go to the question in the Q&A app there about the Developer Plus program specifically? And then this question is the Developer Plus program available for customers that want to try out Rackspace Cloud, or is it exclusive to only serious developers? So Jesse, I'll let you answer that one.
There is no barrier to entry, and I did that intentionally. So one of the things is that it's like, you can use it to learn and build, or you could use it if you're a serious developer or anything else like that. We're not going to give you a code quiz, and we're not going to try to, number one, code quizzes can be gamed, FYI. And we're not going to ask for your GitHub ID or anything else like that. It's, we really do welcome everyone to it because, just from I may have done some security things in the past, and so any sort of test you try to put in front of me for validation, I can game. And so I'm not going to try to treat anyone stupid, right? Because I think it's insulting. But also, I want developers from all walks of life and all points in their career to give us a try and actually, learn and grow with us. So it's not just serious developers; it's also not serious developers.
Yeah. Well,
I like silly developers
come from. What was that, Drew?
I like silly developers myself.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think there's something for there, and I think that serious developers come from not so serious developers, or I guess we could say, inquisitive or in progress developers. So I think that's part of it, and that's some of the questions that have been asked before. Is why is this just for a year? What happens after a year? Is it only for someone that's developing something currently? And I mean, if you're developing something currently, awesome. This is a great place to try it out and see how Rackspace will, the infrastructure itself, just try out our products and see how that works. And by the way, along the way, you'll have actual developers that are there to kind of assist you and to help you out, and that's a great way to get in and test it out.
So I will say this: one of the things that we have done is we have limited access to chat and phone support as part of Developer Plus, kind of intentionally, because this is targeted towards the developer audience and one-to-many support and developer-to-developer support, which typically uses a different channel than chat and phone. So if you are trying us out and you're not a hardcore developer and you do want to call support, you will have the ability to do so, but it is rate limited to some extent. But it's like, we're never not going to help you, and that's one of the challenges of putting together a program like this. It's like there isn't a person in Rackspace who isn't going to do their best no matter what to help you. But it's available for It's available for all customers, but we specifically denote that we aim it and we gear its offerings and the way we provide support towards the developer market. So I hope that answers the question that came up in Q&A.
Yeah, no, I think it did, and one thing that I would just add to that is, if you have a question about it, let us know. Give us a call, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on telephone, however you want to do it. If you want to swing by the castle and ask us directly, we're at One Fanatical Place, San Antonio, Texas, 78218, I think. Come and visit us, and we'll take you down the slide and answer your questions for you. Cool. So we're just about out of time. And I do want to kind of wrap it up here. So I'll just give you guys one last chance to give any shout-outs or anything that you want to do, and highlight anything that we might have missed in this hour up until now.
Yes, so Dale, I learned something incredibly awesome at the conference. And real quick to answer Skip's question here, Docker is one of the deployment blueprints in the cloud portal. So yes, you can do that.
Oh, great.
So we were giving out lightsabers for Object Rocket, right? And the question was, hey, can these go in your carry-on or on the plane? So I took it upon myself to tweet the airport. Airport comes back almost immediately with an excerpt from TSA's knowledge base that says, while the technology currently does not exist, sadly, we absolutely allow lightsabers on the planes. And I thought that was it was brilliant.
That is amazing. I don't know what I like more, the fact that they were so helpful at answering your question, or that the question has been asked enough times that it's actually in the TSA's FAQ. That's impressive.
We like to cause trouble.
I think on the lightsaber thing, I think I also got into a lightsaber duel with a 2-year-old, so that was pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
For the record, I lost.
Yeah. Well, they're so much shorter, I mean, you're coming at a different angle. I mean, it's So it's a whole different.
Worse than doing a lefty. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Everett, do you have any final thoughts? Do you fight any 2-year-olds?
Yeah, I practice a form of jiu-jitsu that's focused entirely on disabling children 6 to 8 years old.
Let's talk afterwards.
Yeah, it's just been invaluable to me, and I practice almost daily.
Yeah. It also works on developers.
Yeah. So one of the things I came away from OSCON with was just how important functional programming is becoming. It's something that I've been kind of delving into in the past 6 months or so, and it seems like so many companies and so many developers are getting into it and going all in with it, and it's something I plan to explore further and just continue to grow as a developer, and OSCON really helped me with that. It's really, really cool.
Great. Jesse, anything else you want to add?
And Docker.
Docker. Bingo.
Docker. Oh my.
Docker. Actually, no. It's always great to go and connect to the wider community than just like my typical Python circles. So, I mean, I actually really do enjoy getting out there and talking to developers on the ground and getting their feedback and getting their thoughts. That's sort of why I designed developer. Who's watching cartoons?
Oh, that must be me. That's Toy Story 3. Sorry, I need to unmute.
See, I'm a parent. I can call them on it. I'm like, ooh. Yeah, it's one of the things that I came away with, well, rather that I really enjoy, and the reason why Developer Plus is designed the way that it is that I love being able to get direct, honest, candid feedback constantly from our users. I think that's critical to any business's success. So OSCON and other conferences just make me excited just to get out there and just say, what do you think? Have you tried this? Also Docker.
So Docker, got it. Cool.
Yeah, I'd like. Could I add on a serious note, though? Yeah, I'd like to pretty much mimic what everybody else just said. Learned that there's a great community out there. Definitely learned that there's a good number of people that haven't even heard of Rackspace or know what we do. So we have a little bit more work to do there. It was very fun answering to fresh audiences and Docker.
Great. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, a couple other things that I wanted to mention real quick before we get out of here. There's a couple of great videos that we have put together from our Rackspace Solve customer event that we had earlier this week. I guess it was Monday out in San Francisco. We've got a couple others that are coming up from that are going to be in New York and Chicago later this fall. So if you are one of our customers out that way, check that out. It's going to be a really good show teaching you a little bit about how customers have solved some problems with Rackspace Cloud. And then just another product announcement real quick. We have our Cloud Databases product. We actually added some support for both Percona and MariaDB. So that's some really great stuff. And here we have a couple of other NoSQL solutions that are coming down the pipe in a little bit here. So those are great tools to add to your portfolio, which are also, by the way, covered under the Developer Plus program. So check those out as we are. All right, so I guess on that note, we'll just say goodbye to everybody. Come catch us next week. We're going to be talking about our our DevOps support tier that we actually launched a couple of weeks ago as well. So good stuff there. And all right, thanks everybody again. Really appreciate you jumping on the call. And
our DevOps show next week is going to be on Wednesday.
It's going to be on Wednesday. That's right. We're changing it to Wednesday. So big curveball there. So see you guys next week. Thanks again to Dale and Everett and Jesse. Really appreciate you guys coming on. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.